Hello everybody, welcome back to Screen Stars and welcome to another of my top 10 lists. And today's top 10 list focuses on my favourite 1980s science fiction movies. And boy, what a difficult list this was to put together. Very difficult indeed. Spawned much of debate in my household. And I had to put a couple of rules in place for my own benefit here, otherwise this list would have gone up to about 30, not 10. So I'm not including what you could consider to be a horror here, so things like John Carpenter's The Thing, which you could class as both. For me it's more of a horror than it is a science fiction. So I've kind of put some rules in place there, but honestly there are so many that didn't make my list. I could have really done a long list here, so I do and hope that you enjoy the list that I have put together. There's some real classics here and very difficult to decide on my number one, so let's see. So as always there are some that don't make the list, and the three I have chosen that haven't made my top 10. The first one is Flash Gordon. Now this has developed a life of its own over the years, and it's a really campy fun science fiction film that I went to the cinema to see when it first came out, and it is certainly quite a legendary film. The second one is The Running Man. Great Arnie science fiction action film, very gory, huge amounts of fun, but just didn't quite make my top 10. And the third one I've chosen is E.T. This would probably make most people's top 10 list. And I'm not saying it's a bad film. I actually have a lot of affection for this film. I went many times to watch this at the cinema when it came out. The thing is now, it's not a film I choose to watch very often anymore. So whereas I have an affection for it and I enjoyed it very much when I was young, it's not a film I enjoy as much as an adult. However, I certainly recognise that it is a classic science fiction film. So coming in at number 10, I've chosen The Abyss. I recently did a misunderstood movie review on this film. I think it's a forgotten classic personally. I think it's a brilliant James Cameron film, and it's one I still enjoy to this day. It's basically set underwater about this mining rig that gets caught up with these underwater aliens. It's a really fantastic film. Still stands up today. The underwater sequences are spectacular. Brilliant direction by James Cameron, great cast, and definitely a fantastic science fiction film, one that I strongly recommend you watch if you haven't seen it, and I think it is very deserving to make a top 10 list of 80s science fiction films. Coming in at number 9 is Mad Max 2. This was a difficult choice for me, because I actually prefer Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome. I think it's a more cinema friendly or an audience friendly film. It was more made for mainstream audiences, that. But this one is no denying it's an absolute classic science fiction post-apocalyptic film. It's kind of, I think, the film that really put Mel Gibson on the map. Really fun to watch, fantastic driving sequences, and really fantastic. I think it's one of Mel Gibson's strongest action films, and a very deserving science fiction film. Coming in at number 8, another film that I think is grossly misunderstood, Dune. I'm stupidly excited for Denis Villeneuve's version of Dune that is due out later this year, I hope. But this one I went to the cinema to see as well when it was released back in 1984. David Lynch. I'm not really a fan of David Lynch generally speaking, but I think he delivers here. A brilliant film. Yes, it is a bit overindulgent at times, I suppose, and a little bit confusing, but there's no denying that there are aspects of this film that are just spectacular. It looks incredible, it feels epic, and it is a wonderfully made science fiction film, and I've always liked it. Coming in at number 7, I think arguably the best Star Trek film put to screen, and I do think there is a debate to be had there, but this is easily, I think, one of the best, and it was a follow-up to the first one which many were disappointed about, and they went proper Star Trek with this one. It's absolutely brilliant. Star Trek 2, The Wrath of Khan. It's epic, it's a great adventure, it's emotional, I still get a lump in my throat now when Mr. Spock, well, you know, spoiler alert, Spock dies in this one, but he comes back in the next one. Fantastic Star Trek film. I've got really fond memories of watching this with my dad when I was young, and easily the best Star Trek film, I think, of the 80s. Coming at number 6, ooh, controversial, Aliens. This probably may be higher on some people's lists, but you hadn't seen what comes after this. Fantastic science fiction film. I think you could argue this is a horror as well, but I think this leans more on the science fiction and action side of it, even though it is very, very scary at times too. Brilliant science fiction. Again, James Cameron, genius. We know this. He did make some incredible films. I'm not overly keen on his Avatar, and I'm not that interested in his sequels to his Avatar. But at this point in his career, he was untouchable. Fantastic film, really good, great action, great science fiction, and one of the best. Coming in at number 5, Robocop, released in 1987. What a film! It was hugely controversial at the time, I do seem to remember, because of the violence. I didn't see it in a cinema because I was too young when it came out initially. But the first time I saw it, I mean, it just blew me away. I mean, the effects were mind-blowing. The violence was on a level as to what I've never ever seen before. It still stands up today. Yes, I know they've done a remake, and I did a misunderstood movie review on that remake. I don't think it's as bad as people made out, but it can't touch this. This one is just fantastic, an absolute classic science fiction film and a great action film. Coming at number 4, The Terminator. How can this not be higher on the list, some people may argue. Again, Jim Cameron, genius. We've covered this already. Such an important film, this. I think it really broke the career of Arnold Schwarzenegger. It made him a real star, and it's a timeless story that they've tried to recreate many times with the sequels. They've only really arguably succeeded with the second one, Terminator 2. The first one is still a really fantastic science fiction action film, and is brilliant as the bad guy, the Terminator, and it's just an endlessly watchable film. Wonderful stuff. Coming in at number 3, Predator. Arguably my personal favourite Arnie film. When I watched it at the time when it came out, it just blew my mind. I just couldn't believe how good this film was. Great idea, very simple, but it's executed to absolute perfection, and the sci-fi elements that they blend into this military action film work seamlessly, and the big reveal and the effects at the end for the Predator were just, at the time, jaw-dropping stuff. It was great to see Arnold out-Arnied in a film, and it's a timeless classic. Coming in at number 2, Empire Strikes Back. Who's going to argue here when you say this is the best Star Wars film that's ever been put to screen? Brilliantly, really expanded on the first Star Wars film. The expanded each of the characters so well, expanded the universe so well, and delivered here an absolutely flawless film. If I was to review this film, and I'm sure I will one day review all the Star Wars films, it's a stone cold 10 out of 10, this film. It's flawless, huge fun, great entertainment, great characters, and definitely one of the best. But for me, number 1, it can only be Blade Runner. Again, it's a stone cold 10 out of 10. Incredible film. I've always had a deep affection for this film. I just think it's been so influential. When you look at the visuals and the soundtrack, and everything just works in this film. It's incredibly made. Ridley Scott created an absolute masterpiece, almost by mistake, and how it went for so long without people recognising its brilliance is beyond me. I'm a huge fan of the sequel. I wasn't expecting to like it as much as I did. I gave it a 10 out of 10 on this channel. I adore the sequel. I think it complements the first one beautifully, and is arguably even better in some ways. I just think the pair of them together are perfect science fiction films, and I think this is deserving of making it to the top spot. So there you go, guys. That is my top 10 favourite science fiction films from the 1980s. Really, really difficult list to do. There's so many that I had to miss out, and I'm sure you'll mention some of those in the comments. Really, really difficult to separate the top 6 from Aliens Beyond, what positions they were going to go in. For me, it was never really a question what was going to be number 1. I think Blade Runner is just a massively influential science fiction film still to this day, and it's one that I just can watch at any point. As many on these lists I can. Very, very difficult list to do. I would love to either see you do your own list, or for you to let me know in the comments what your top 10s would be. But if you do your own list, don't forget to let me know in the comments that you've done a video, and then I can head over and watch it on your channel. So of course, thank you very much for watching, everybody, and I will of course be back for more reviews on Screen Stars very, very soon.